do want to welcome everyone to the USTA Midwest Awards and Hall of Fame evening. We do have a special evening planned, and as I mentioned to you earlier, that National has asked us to put together a shout-out video, and I'm going to try and not screw this up, but I want everybody to be included in this, all right? Hey everyone, this is Colin Atkinson, president of USTA Midwest, and I want to give a shout-out to not just one, but our entire Midwest family who's here with me tonight at our annual meeting. They are making changes and doing great things within their communities. I want to give a shout-out to them. Let's keep rallying. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you. All right. I do want to give a quick shout out to my daughters. Yeah, they're over there. That's Kennedy waving, and my other daughter, Savannah. I wasn't able to give them a shout out yet. They weren't here yesterday, but thank you for letting Daddy do his tennis job and taking time away from you. But I really do appreciate you guys being here tonight. All right, so I'm going to call Joe Tegmeyer up to the stage, or he's already on the stage, to the podium, to announce the award winners for the Stan Moles District Diamond Service Award and also the Mel Bergman Section Diamond Service Award. Joe?
Thanks. I just realized that I didn't get to be in that video thing.
You and I will do one later.
No. Thank you, Colin. Thanks. It kind of I'm nervous about tonight because it does kind of feel like my performance is directly related to how much you drank. So I'm trying to figure out if my jokes don't land, then you guys will all be like, ooh, or if they're good, you'll all be like, yay. So I don't know. We'll just find out. So I do want to start out tonight and ask that anybody named Frank sitting at these two tables, could you please stand? Please stand, Franks. Is there another Frank? All right, so I don't know if anybody sees a pattern here, but it does appear that the winners are all related to Franks. And just because I do think it's odd, can anybody else named Frank in the room just like say, hey? Right? So that's what I'm thinking. So anyway, all right. So if you don't mind, I tried starting something new when I started doing this. On these two awards, I wanted to read a little bit about the awards. If they let me keep doing it, I'm going to read these damn things every damn year. But I do think it's important because the awards were just named after two guys, and they're very important men. And but when I first came into the section, I had no clue who they were. And someone would just say, oh, I won the Mel Bergman, Great. And like nobody's like, who is Mel Bergman and why is it important and why is it really cool that you won that award or even the Stan Moles? And I also wanted to identify where where they're from. One is district specific and it's the highest possible one as, diamond thing, and same thing with the section. So thanks for humoring me and listening to what they're about and then also their names. So I'm going to first read a quick tidbit about Sam. I'm going to make sure my phone is off. That's a subtle hint. Phone off. Okay. So Stan Moles was born in 1915 and he passed away in 2012. Living in Indianapolis from age 5, Stan was known as Mr. Tennis. At age 15, Stan earned a scholarship at Purdue at age 15. That's insane. Graduated with an engineering degree, lettering in tennis and basketball. He was a U.S. Army colonel, receiving the Silver Star in World War II. He founded the Permanent Magnet Company, whose magnets were used in Apollo vehicles, completing the first lunar mission. And he consulted for the Atomic Energy Commission. Responsible for building the downtown tennis stadium here in Indy, Stan brought professional tennis to Indianapolis. Stan served as the USTA Midwest Section president from 1964 through 1965, and the USTA president from 1974 through 1976. He negotiated the first U.S. Open television contract. He researched and created original tennis patent that is now displayed in the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Stan helped modernize the game by initiating computer rankings, the point penalty system, electronic line calling, satellite and senior tournaments. In an effort to get tennis reinstated to the Olympics, Stan became a member of the Olympic Committee, culminating in tennis's return to the Olympics in 1994. Stan was an International Tennis Federation honorary life counselor and an avid traveler who visited nearly every country, including both poles, visiting the South Pole at age 89. So if you get that award, that's a big deal, Ruth. That's a big deal. So please, and for those of you who didn't know that about Stan, please kind of keep that in mind when you hear about people who win these awards. It's a really big deal. So the Stan Maless District Diamond Service Award recognizes individuals who have contributed to the development of tennis programs in his or her district for at least 5 years. And Ruth Grissom was nominated this year by Kat Hawkins. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Ruth, if you don't mind. Growing up in Detroit, Ruth was introduced to tennis as a teenager. Kids were hitting tennis balls in the middle of her street without a net, just 2 rackets and a ball. Within 30 minutes, she was hooked. Attending Butler University, Ruth found a Learn to Play tennis course, and she took it twice. At the Capital City Tennis Club, CCTC, here in Indy, it allowed Ruth to become active in community tennis. Capital City Tennis was founded over 100 years ago, advocating for black tennis players. For some of the things that Ruth did, for a decade, Ruth has led events locally at Riverside Park on the Marion Rice Courts, focusing specifically on minority and underserved communities. Those events include Pack the Park, separately a Juneteenth Junior celebration, as well as the Tamika Catchings Catch the Stars Back to School event. She has been a tournament director for the Capital City Open since 2015. Correct me if I get anything wrong, okay? She's also volunteered for high school tennis in Zionville High School since 2015. She joined her first USTA league in 1985. She still competes and wins today. Ruth's been a part of the Indianapolis tennis community for nearly 40 years. Not only did tennis bring Ruth advocacy, but it also brought her love with one of those Franks. I think it's that Frank right there. I'd like to finish with some words from Earl Allen, a tennis pro and boys head coach from Zionville High School. Ruth is constantly pursuing personal growth and looking for ways to give back to causes much larger than her. She takes advantage of her high school coaching experience to develop herself intellectually and socially as a tournament director and leader. She is dedicated to improving her game by participating in clinics and lessons to further her own growth, but also so she can give back when coaching high school tennis players. Her dedication to help Zionville reach the state finals championship multiple years in a row, and Ruth's strengths include her ability to positively influence the lives of others, not just one guy. Ruth, come on up.
I appreciate it. And just a couple of words. I just want to say how thankful I am to be here tonight. Deeply honored and grateful to have been chosen for the Stan Maless Award for this year, not only for USTA Miss Midwest, but for also CITA. And I have to thank the CITA team for getting this started for me. Kat, thank you, appreciate you. I work a lot with CITA, Kathy Ruby and Tiffany and Karen Griffiths, a number of people who allow me to get out there and share my love for the game. And I truly appreciate them. Can't accept this award without acknowledging my village. We all know it takes a village. And Capital City Tennis Club is my village. They have, for over 100 years, worked to grow the game, share the love of the game with not only the members of the club, but for the community surrounding our home courts at Riverside. I truly am appreciative of them. They have shown me the way, and I continue to work for that mission of Capital City sharing the love of the game. For me, it all started in Detroit. You know, I'm a product of an inner city youth. Didn't have a whole lot going on, but it just took one person to say, Ruth, you know, you're fairly good at this. You know, you should try this. One little bit of encouragement, one positive comment changed my life. Tennis has enriched my life in ways I, can't even share. Not only through providing me with that outlet, a healthy outlet, but being out there, making friends, growing my family, marrying my husband, who I did meet on the tennis court. Tennis has just enriched my life, and I truly want to share that with others, possibly just make a difference for someone just by being positive, giving them a compliment. So again, thank you very much for this award. I appreciate it. Thank you to CITA. Thank you to USTA Midwest. Appreciate it. I'm thankful for the recognition. Thank you very much.
Congrats again, Ruth. Now to our next award of the evening, the Mel Bergman Section Diamond Service Award. I'm going to read a little bit about that award too, and you can learn about Mel. Mel Bergman was born in 1902, and he passed away in 1993. Mel served as the president of the Western Tennis Association, now the Midwest section, from 1945 through 1946. One of the most active volunteers in history of the association, Mel served on several national committees, including the prestigious United States Lawn and Tennis Association Administrative Committee. Mr. Bergman was a national delegate at large for more than a decade, additionally serving as a regional vice president and national secretary for 3 years. After his activity in the 1940s, Mel returned to the section as secretary of the Midwest Section Association for Tennis from 1961 to 1965. In 1977, the association, now USTA Midwest Section, chose its most prestigious award, should be named after Melvin R. Bergman. Melvin was enshrined into the Western Tennis Association, now the Midwest Section Hall of Fame, in 1997. The Mel Bergman Section Diamond Service Award recognizes continuous and distinguished service to the USTA Midwest Section for at least 10 years. So again, pretty good guy. So, nominated by Jim Amick, the winner of our award tonight is Joy Albee. So, I gotta talk about you. So, I first wanted to start by sharing what she did at the district level in the Ohio Valley. She was a committee chair, a delegate, a vice president, and then she became the president. If we then start piling on the section stuff, bylaw committee member, delegate, including delegate co-chair responsibilities, then on to the Midwest Board of Directors as secretary, treasurer, and finally, our president at the Midwest section. She is currently the Midwest Tennis and Education Foundation president. Joy is also the co-chair of delegates at USTA National. A little bit more about Joy. While president of the Greater Columbus Tennis Association, Joy brought the CTA to a new level. She recruited board members, organized effective committees, and conducted efficient meetings focusing on important goals. Joy increased attention to those underserved in tennis by being a champion for inner city tennis and wheelchair tennis. High IQ plus high emotional and social intelligence allows Joy to become a consensus builder and a collaborator, mastering friendly persuasion. Show of hands, who's been on the end of a friendly persuasion conversation? Yeah, probably a lot at this table, I bet, right? All right. Joy is a strategic thinker and a visionary, always thinking about the future. She initiated a consultant-led strategic planning process at the Greater Columbus Tennis Association, then at the Ohio Valley Tennis Association, and most recently, the Midwest Tennis and Education Foundation. Now we go to awards. There's so many frickin' awards. It's crazy. Okay, Greater Columbus Tennis Association Appreciation.
It's actually Cincinnati.
Is it Cincinnati? Thank you. No, I told her to correct me. Greater Cincinnati Tennis Association Appreciation Award in 2003. You know, I pulled this stuff off Google. It might be wrong. Greater Cincinnati Tennis Association Family of the Year Award in 2004. Greater Cincinnati Tennis Association President Award in 2005. Miami Valley Coach of the Year 2005 and 2006. Greater Cincinnati Tennis Association Coach of the Year in 2006. Greater Cincinnati, I gotta keep saying that over and over. Greater Cincinnati Tennis Association Division II Coach of the Year and Cincinnati Enquirer Division II Coach of the Year in 2006. Still flipping pages, Joy.
It's because I'm really old.
No. Joy's tenure as USTA Midwest Section President in 2018 is when we won Section of the Year for the Midwest from National. I'd like to finish with a few quotes from her peers. Effective representation and leadership do not just casually occur. They are the results of the commitment and skills of passionate leaders such as Joy. Don Harris, past section president. Joy creates well-rounded volunteer leaders and people who will go on to further grow their sport. They are doing so because Joy has touched them with her passion, wisdom, and vast years of experience in our organization. Jeff Stassen, current section executive board vice president. Joy is energizing to the U.S. Midwest Foundation, growing the game and outreach to a broader and deeper base, all supported by her keen fundraising skills that have exceeded $250,000 during her current short tenure at the helm of the foundation. That's from Steve Butzloff, past section president. Personally, I feel very lucky that I became a volunteer under Joy. I consider her a great mentor. Come on up, Joy.
Thank you to the Midwest section. And not for the first time or the last time. Tonight is special not only for this wonderful recognition and for incredibly kind, mostly accurate reporting. My family is here. So I have my daughter, my son-in-law, my husband. They came from 3 different cities, 2 different time zones. One of them flew in, and I'm just so grateful to have the family support, and they're here tonight. So you heard about the namesake for this award, but there are others here that are also past recipients of this award. So I would like each of the past recipients of this award to please stand. Because here's what I know, there are new volunteers here for the first time, and look at those people. This is people I learned from in order to be a good volunteer. And they are wonderful role models, and it's a tribute to our section that these people stay engaged. I intend to stay engaged. It's a wonderful thing. I became involved in tennis because a roving ref came up to me at a junior tournament watching this guy, Luke, and at 12, and she said, "Oh gosh, you look like a good tennis parent. Why don't you volunteer for junior comp?" And that's how I started. And then all of us volunteers have those moments where it's wonderful, this is why I do this, and there's the other ones where you just go, oh my God, why am I doing this? So I had that perfect confluence when I was the tennis director for St. Peter Claver Latin School for Boys. Inter-school school, maybe 100 kids from K through 8, multi-story, so none of the ceilings are tall. So we're practicing in the lunchroom with little nets and foam balls. And an 8th grader comes up to me, looks me in the eye and said, "You know, I thought tennis was a sissy sport, but it's really fun." That same day, this is the lunchroom, they set up rows and rows of apple juice. And they filled all of the little cups with apple juice. You know what happens when an apple juice gets hit by a giant foam ball? Everywhere. But it's proof that you can grow tennis even in unusual environments. And all through this meeting, you've heard about what a great section the Midwest is. Well, it's really good because 2 reasons: volunteers and staff. And we continue to need, and it's such a pleasure to see new faces. We need to hear the voices of those who are young people. We need to hear the voices in our community that are from healthcare. And we need to hear more voices of people of color. And we need to hear more voices of people who play in the parks. And that's the energy that we bring as volunteers. And none of this would have happened tonight. Look at your dinners, all the meetings you've had, but for the staff. We have a new CEO of the foundation and of the section, and their staff brings everything that we as volunteers generate for ideas, for programming, for initiatives, just the communication between ourselves. All of that's done by the staff. So in order for me to have stayed in and participated, it's taken the staff to lead me along, to give me help, and give me support. So a huge thank you to the staff, and thank you to the Midwest.
All right, I'm all done. So I'd like to just say one more congratulations to Ruth and to Joy and to all the Franks. So I'll turn it back over to Colin. Thank you all.
Everybody give a round of applause for Joe. All right, well, as you can see, Joy is on the stage. Joy is the president of our foundation, the Midwest Tennis and Education Foundation, and she'd like to share some words.
Thank you to everyone that participated with our program that everyone has on their table. Those were all donations. It's a major fundraiser for the foundation, and I thank all of you for contributing. I have to tell you that I was surprised to find that my family had put one in. And I think it's a fun fact that there are 2 sentences that describe me. And my family with two attorney sons and one creative writing, it took them hours to figure out what those 2 sentences should say, but they got it in there. The Midwest Foundation is making a difference in all kinds of new ways. First of all, I would like my board to stand up. Whoever's here this evening, the board, there we are, thank you. Now stay standing for just a minute. Stay standing for just a minute. I want you to know that, well, come on, 100% of our 15-member board contributed financially to the foundation, and it was matched by a corporate matching grant, which over the last 3 years has brought $150,000 into our foundation. Thank you, board. You can read more about this in your brochure, but we kind of turned a new corner because the foundation is the recipient of a $100,000 grant from the Laureus Foundation, which allows us to put tennis into locations of violence within the Illinois area. And it's for the next few months, but that was a major cornerstone for us, and we're very, very proud of it. We continue to work really closely with our districts. Central Indiana moved their foundation finances into the Midwest Foundation as a restricted fund. So what does that mean? We take care of the funds and manage them, but they get to decide where they go. So this is what we call it, a restricted fund. So Central Indiana gets to choose where those funds go. And that added another $150,000 that we're taking care of on behalf of one of our big districts. The foundation partners very closely with our NJTLs, and we work very closely because that's a nice link to underserved areas. And I think it's important to recognize that the Midwest section had the largest amount of participation with our NJTLs, bringing in $250,000 from the USTA Foundation. We created a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, and I'd like to share it with you. It says, the USTA Midwest Tennis and Education Foundation is committed to connecting the joy of tennis, I didn't write this, the joy of tennis to educational opportunities and to creating a dynamic and inclusive culture in which diversity, differences, and the richness of ideas are valued. A culture where people of all backgrounds and abilities actively participate to shape the future of our organization. We have many directed donors, Rajiv Ram being one of them. And as a consequence of our diversity statement, we partnered with the section and we distributed over $130,000 with diversity focus. And so why do we do this? Well, because this is our mission. Our mission is to connect the joy of tennis to educational opportunities and enhance the lives of our youth and all persons with disabilities. And tennis is more than a sport. So for just a second, consider this. Tennis connects to careers. Whether you went to school on a scholarship and became a neurosurgeon or a banker, or whether you learned tennis skills that allowed you to go out and be a professional teaching pro, tennis connects to careers. Tennis connects to health. I can't imagine a better way to stay fit than to play tennis. Whether it's singles or doubles, it just like never feels like exercise. Tennis connects to families. Here's mine. We talked about family as a global sense in terms of the Midwest family, but whether it's family singles or, at least in my family, it wasn't such a friendly game of doubles. But it does connect to your family, for sure. And tennis connects to friends. Think of all the people that are in your universe that you connect with and your friends. And last of all, tennis is fun. Imagine life without the joy of serving an ace on match point or beating that guy who has, on your local park tennis ladder that you haven't beaten in 5 times out. You know, that would be a real miss. Tennis is a connector. And I just want you to take for a minute and imagine, what would your life be without tennis? That's what connects us here. And so that's why I have a passion. Because I think all the people that I want to touch, they ought to have those opportunities to connect with tennis and to connect with all the things that tennis brings to our lives. So, I want you to know that there's ways to give to the foundation, no surprise there, but I do want you to think about, you know, there's kind of an important game tomorrow, it's called the Super Bowl, And I will confess I'm a fair weather fan, but I do love the commercials. So here's my ask of you. When you guys are watching the Super Bowl, I want you to decide within your group, whether it's a party or a family, whether it's a $5 or a $10 or more, for every commercial that you laugh at or that you cry at, you add to the pot. And then you send that pot to the foundation. Remember us. So now we're going to switch gears, and for a very special treat, I want you to meet, where is Sinai? Sinai McBride, yep, from Chicago. Come on, make your way up. I'm going to talk about her for a minute, so you're just going to have to stand here patiently for a sec. The Foundation's vision is to inspire character and leadership and to impact entire communities by keeping people active and healthy through tennis and education. And I will tell you, this young lady absolutely embodies that. Here's how we learned about this. Lori James, and this is her son, Amir. Amir James is Sinai's coach. And Sinai had a burning desire to play tennis. But like many of us, when we are parents and we don't know the tennis world, it's hard to put that together. But it just happened that her mom is a nurse. So she was visiting Lori James's home for a well visit, and Mom mentioned that Sinai would really like to learn tennis. Lori James invited her to Love to Serve in Chicago, and I hear you kind of like the sport. As a consequence, she was inspired to enter the NJTL Foundation essay contest. And you know, an essay contest sounds kind of simple. I want to read you the prompt to which she had to respond. Mayor Dinkins was convinced tennis instills confidence, character, sportsmanship, and teamwork. He envisioned the sport as a vehicle to drive you closer to your dreams. Do you agree that tennis develops these positive qualities? Are there other skills or positive aspects gained from playing tennis? What are your dreams? How can tennis help you achieve those dreams and develop meaningful relationships? Now just pause for a minute. She has 350 words to answer this question. So I want you to give Sinai a warm welcome. Thank you to her coach. And please come up and read your wonderful essay.
Hello, my name is Sinai, and I was one of the winners selected for the NJTL essay contest. Before I get started with the speech I've prepared for you today, I'd like to share a little about myself. First, I'm a 14-year-old girl from the city of Chicago. I love to bake with my family. We even try to get a little tennis in from time to time, and of course, I always win. I started playing tennis last summer. I think it has been the best decision I've made so far in my teenage years. Tennis has granted me with a lot of extraordinary opportunities and experiences. I am very thankful for my amazing tennis organization, Love to Serve, with special mention Mrs. Lori James and Mr. Amir James. I would not be here without them. Now for the essay that changed my life. The essay question that was given to me was, Mayor David Dinkins was convinced that tennis instills confidence, character, sportsmanship, and teamwork. He envisioned the sport as a vehicle to drive you closer to your dreams. Do you agree that tennis develops these positive qualities? Are there other skills or positive aspects gained from playing tennis? What are your dreams? How can tennis help you achieve those dreams and develop meaningful relationships? I do agree that tennis develops all the positive qualities of confidence, sportsmanship, character, and teamwork. There are undoubtedly other skills gained from playing tennis. You can gain intelligence and leadership. Intelligence can be gained by practicing the craft to better yourself and your skills. Leadership can be gained by going for the ball in doubles or even making sure an opponent or partner is okay after a loss. My dream is to one day become a neurosurgeon along with a pastry chef. Tennis can definitely help me achieve this. I can develop leadership skills to help me with future careers. If I want to become the head neurosurgeon or head baker, I have to know what to tell my team. Also, I have to know what to do when something goes wrong. Another way tennis can help me achieve my dreams is through teamwork. As a team of doctors and nurses, we have to perform together and make decisions together, just like a tennis team. We have to band together through the difficult and hard times in order to achieve success. Tennis can help me develop meaningful relationships. It can because the more we work together, the more we become a cohesive unit. Lastly, through different programs, I can meet friends that I can have for life. Tennis is a great sport for leadership, teamwork, character, and confidence. I would like to personally thank the USTA Midwest section for granting me this opportunity to share my work of art with you. Thank you so much for having me here today and taking the time to listen.
Those of you that were in our meetings, I just want to give a special shout out to Laura Canfield. She's sitting right over there. She offered up a special opportunity to fundraise for the foundation. So this Honeydukes Cup from New York represents her offer to provide, we're going to wrap around the President's Suite a US Open experience. The foundation will be searching for sponsors that would want to take advantage of this and enrich our youth and all persons with disabilities by making a contribution. So this is yet to be fulfilled, but we will, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Great, thank you, Joy. And Sinai, that was awesome. You absolutely killed that, just so you know. And And it was really special for me because I've got my daughters here. To see you up here as a 14-year-old, I hope my daughters took some notes. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to move to the Hall of Fame portion of the evening. And you'll notice on your tables there is a QR code for those family members that we lost, the Midwest Tennis family that we lost. That'll take you to a landing page that talks about those members. One of those members is actually a member of the Hall of Fame for Midwest. And his name is Alan Schwartz. Alan was a titan of tennis, and we've got one of Alan's personal friends that wants to say a couple words in honor of Alan. So, Tom Patterson, please come up.
Thank you, Colin. I feel deeply honored to speak briefly of my dear friend, Alan Schwartz, who died December 5th, 2022, at the age of 91. Alan and his loving, supportive wife, Ronnie, and their family are in my prayers and thoughts as I give this tonight. Needless to say, as Colin said, in some way, Alan is larger than life itself. Tennis legend, USTA past president, business and tennis entrepreneur, kind, supportive, generous, smart, thoughtful, competitive, and one who always gave back to the sport we love. He's in the Chicago and Midwest Hall of Fames. Over 20 years ago, Alan and his father, Civi, built the 14-court indoor Midtown Tennis Club on the corner of Fullerton, Damon, and Elston in Chicago. If you don't know, that intersection is recognized annually as one of the 10 most accident-prone intersections in the state of Illinois. I was not an original club member, but as my wife Nancy says, I seldom passed a tennis club I failed to join. I was an early member. Yesterday at 85, I hit for an hour with pro Joe Lydon at Midtown, thinking of Alan before heading here. My friend Billie Jean King, as many of you know, I was chief umpire and referee at World Team Tennis for 25 years, or for 16 years, said, quote, "Midtown is the benchmark for all indoor tennis clubs," end of quote. Such innovations as matinee tennis, tennis in no time, which is used to encourage adults to learn or resume tennis, and thanks to Butch Staples and Leah Friedman, 12 and under tennis for kids were Midtown innovations or staple offerings. They offer virtually all USTA programming. Midtown was for years home for high-performance youth tennis in Chicago. In the summers, Midtown pros staffed tennis in the Chicago public parks, including Waveland on the lake. Legendary tennis teachers got their start for Alan. Bobby Wong, Jane and Chris Seifert, Greg Allen, Gene Scott, and many, many others. Alan was also encouraged Pat Freebody, and before her Patty Ingersoll, and later Vi Clark, to become very active in leadership roles in the Midwest section, and originally the Western section. Longtime partner of Alan's in winning gold balls across the nation, David Muir, was credited by Alan as teaching Alan how to organize his tennis bag before active competition. When Mike Mahoney was president and I was vice president of the Chicago district, he encouraged a Midtown assistant manager, Mark Shapirsky, to apply for the job of the district executive director. Mark retired recently after over 20 years as one of the most effective EDs in the nation. At that time, Alan arranged for Mark's benefits to be extended because Mark's first and only son was born that year and was covered by Midtown benefits, though he was working for the Chicago district. You may have heard of Alan discovering International Hall of Famer, former Wimbledon, U.S. Open champion George Lott driving a taxi cab from O'Hare. Because of Alan's efforts, George eventually became the general manager of the Fullerton Tennis Club and head pro there, and then became the longtime tennis coach at DePaul University, thanks to Alan. My close relationship with Alan unfolded when I served as chief umpire and referee for the National Boys 14s Indoor Championships for over 30 years. Not only did this mean over 30 Thanksgiving dinners on Alan and with Alan, but he always had my back. Even in those rare but tough situations when we had to remove a parent or a coach from the club for unsportsmanlike conduct, Alan was there to back me up. Our tournament was chosen to introduce junior behavior suspension points. And I also loved Alan's careful description of each and every semifinalist's playing styles. Didn't make a difference if they were a McEnroe, an Agassi, a Roddick, or just a guy named Jones. Alan honored me by putting my name on the annual sportsmanship trophy, which I gladly awarded the month before he died with Mike Inscott, head pro at this year's 14 and under event. Alan was not in good health near the end. He had a fall at one of his suburban clubs. He formed Tennis Corporation of America that either owned or supplied pros all across the nation. And he bemoaned that because at one of his clubs he had no one to sue. I pointed out that he had gone into semi-retirement and that his son Stephen was the new president of TCA, and he could definitely sue Stephen. He thought that was hilarious, which he proudly announced to Stephen. Ronnie lovingly cared for him. In 7 years, I needed to contact Alan for a favor, and I called his longtime personal assistant to ask Alan to call me. She announced that he and Ronnie were in Antarctica. Ronnie told me later that she was so scared because if Alan had ever encountered any serious health issue, they were subject to only some military treatment in a long, long flight to Peru. When I asked Alan about this, he told me it was absolutely the greatest trip of his entire life. 2 years ago, Alan, with Julian Kurbis, a longtime head pro in Chicago and also an anthropologist at the Field Museum, started a project to document the tennis history of Chicago. Our last meeting was with Alan and others at Midtown, just a month before he passed. Alan was a longtime supporter of Love to Serve, which was previously identified. Also, both Alan and I were members of the Prairie Tennis Club of Chicago. You may not know it, but Prairie Tennis is the oldest African American tennis club, or CTA, in the United States. That club produced others such as Midwest Hall of Famer Katrina Adams, formerly an NCAA and Grand Slam champion. Alan was an outstanding spokesman who put into reality an activist for diversity. 5 years ago, the state rebuilt that scary intersection I mentioned at the start. Alan and Stephen and Michael Mahoney took the opportunity to add 3 pools, 2 dining areas, new workout and fitness facilities, plus an indoor parking garage. They also added a 54-room boutique hotel. No courts, no new courts, but Alan told me that they could be added to the roof of the garage if necessary. Purpose was to become more inviting to non-tennis families. Over 50% of the Midtown membership originally was single tennis player families or units. And by the time they got through with their promotion of the new building, they had over 70% family memberships. And we now have a waiting list for memberships again. Of course, Midtown, I expect future swimming championships. And Midtown has started an active junior swimmer development, and many of you may not know that Alan was actively recruited to become a swimmer at Yale University, and he became the captain of the tennis team and an Ivy League champion. But I'm sure we'll see future national champion swimmers coming out of Midtown. Alan Schwartz was truly a good man. I trust he's in a good place right now. I'm sure he's still running around his backhand to hit that powerful forehand. You shall be missed, dear friend.
Thank you, Tom. All right, at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Jonelle Smith, who is the chair of the Hall of Fame committee and will be running our Hall of Fame ceremonies this evening. Thank you.
Tom, thank you very much for those wonderful remarks about Alan and little insights and stories that you had to tell. Our Hall of Fame is full of amazing individuals who have made lasting contributions. They've been innovators, they've grown the game of tennis, they've promoted the game of tennis in every way that you can imagine. We're lucky tonight that we have 2 of our Hall of Fame members with us. I'd like to introduce Barbara Wynn and Ron Brooks. Please stand up. Tonight, we will induct our 97th and 98th members of our Hall of Fame. The late Jimmy Everett and Mark Saunders. As I started looking into the lives of these 2 men, I found a lot of similarities in the beginning, and I promised Mark that I would also point out they were not contemporaries. Both of these men, in their early years, had very similar paths in tennis. Both of them grew up in Illinois. In fact, they were in the northern part of the state. Jimmy grew up in Chicago. Mark grew up in Rockford. Both of them were outstanding high school players. Both of them went on to play college tennis. Both of them went out and played on the professional tour. At some point, though, each of them decided that it was time to settle down. Each married the love of their life and started a family. And it was at that point where their lives headed in different directions while working within the tennis universe. So Jimmy Everett. Jimmy Everett settled in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where he served as the head pro and tennis director of Holiday Tennis Park and their tennis center for more than 50 years. He taught and coached some of the very best players of that time, including his own 5 children, John, Chris, Jeannie, Claire, and Drew, teaching not only strokes and footwork, but the core values to develop the entire player mentally, physically, emotionally, and ethically. Jimmy became a legendary coach. USPTA CEO John Embry said this about Jimmy during the induction ceremony for Jimmy for the USPTA Hall of Fame. If there ever was an example of how to be an ideal tennis parent, Jimmy Everett was it. I only wish that tennis parents in today's junior competitive world would conduct themselves like Everett. A gentleman's gentleman, he embodied class, dignity, respect, and modesty. For each of our inductees, a plaque summarizing all of their, as many as we can get on the plaque, their accomplishments is presented, one to the inductee and an identical plaque that appears it is on display in our Hall of Fame. Jimmy's personal plaque has already been sent to Florida to his family, and I would like to read to you what the plaque says, and Colin is going to hold the plaque up so that you can at least see what it looks like. This is what's inscribed on his plaque. Jimmy Everett was an all-American tennis player who went on to become a legendary coach. Everett was born in Chicago, Illinois, where he grew up learning to play tennis while working as a ball boy at the Chicago Town and Tennis Club. He went on to attend the University of Notre Dame on a tennis scholarship, and he reached number 11 in the United States rankings, winning the men's singles title in the Canadian Championship in 1947. Though he demonstrated great success as a player, Everett is perhaps best known for his accomplishments through coaching. Many who knew him argued that Everett is one of the greatest tennis professionals of all time. During his 49-year tenure as the tennis director for the Holiday Park in Fort Lauderdale, Everett coached thousands of players, including all 5 of his children. He also coached tennis standouts Harold Solomon, Brian Godfrey, Jennifer Capriati, among others. Everett's own daughter, Chris, earned world number 1 ranking for 260 weeks and won 18 major singles titles. Even after all of that, Jimmy continued teaching tennis on public courts for $10 an hour. In 1997, the courts at Holiday Park were renamed in Everett's honor and are now part of the Jimmy Everett Tennis Center. In 1996, Everett, along with his daughter Chris and his son John, started the Everett Tennis Academy, which is still active today and developing tennis players through its installation of 4 core values heralded by Jimmy: excellence, resilience, integrity, and leadership. Jimmy Everett, as quoted by the New York Times, was a highly regarded tennis coach. On August 21st, 2015, he passed away. Everett is loved by his family, loved by his sports communities, and his legend lives on. Mr. President, it is my honor to present Jimmy Everett for induction into the USTA Midwest Tennis Hall of Fame.
It is also my honor to induct Jimmy Everett into our Midwest Tennis Hall of Fame, and tonight he is joining other remarkable contributors to the sport of tennis. Congratulations.
The Everett family could not be with us tonight. However, they did send a video for us to share with you.
We're honored and grateful to accept this award of our father being inducted into the Midwest Hall of Fame. As you know, my dad grew up in Chicago and brought his roots down to Florida to teach tennis, not only teaching thousands of forehands and backhands, but teaching core values and characteristic strengths at Holiday Park, now called Jimmy Everett Park.
He worked so hard for like 50 years at Holiday Park. He was the head pro, tennis director, and at one point in the 70s, we had 9 kids under 21 go to Wimbledon. And that shows how great he was as a coach. He excelled in technique, he excelled in footwork, in the mental aspect of the game, and temperament, and consistency. And he taught all of that to his kids and to everybody around him. And I also am very honored that my dad has been awarded this prestigious award. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second inductee probably needs no introduction to most of you. It is Mark Saunders. After leaving the pro circuit, the pro tour, Mark worked as a teaching pro and as a club manager. Fortunately for us, in 1990, Mark was hired as the director of player development for the Western Tennis Association, which of course later became the USTA Midwest section. He was among the first within the entire USTA to hold the position of Director of Player Development. During that time, Mark worked with the most talented players, junior players, and their coaches throughout our section. Only 6 short years later, Mark was named the CEO of both the USTA Midwest section and the Midwest Foundation. Mark recently retired December the 31st of 2022 after 32 years of service to the Midwest section. Let's just see what your friends and colleagues had to say about you, Mark.
Congratulations on your induction into the USTA Midwest Hall of Fame. Who would have thought this young man that came to Midwest to me so many years ago is now famous and in our great hall? I think that Mark, and his best qualities, was always trying to do the best that he can do. He also worked at improving his staff and himself in trying to make USTA Midwest the best that it can be. I can't thank you enough for the way you helped me and others that followed me. You've just been wonderful.
Mark, congratulations on your selection to be inducted into the Midwest Hall of Fame. Very well deserved. I'm very proud to have known you in the capacity that I have over the years, and I'm thrilled. We're both from Northern Illinois, so knew each other in the juniors. And then in college, I went to Bradley, he went to Indiana State. After I got more involved in the Midwest section, we became, I think, really good friends. I did send him, I think within the last year or two, I was looking up somebody that I had played in college and so was Googling them and saw an article that was talking about a tournament that Mark was playing in. What I sent Mark was the article that was written by a University of Illinois reporter reporting on one of the University of Illinois players having his closest match against Mark Saunders. And what the article said was that, looking here, it said Saunders made a crashing dive to the fence to save the 8th point of the tiebreaker, but netted an easy forehand on the final point. And I sent Mark an email saying that I was really struggling to visualize the dive, but I could easily picture the forehand being netted into the net. Clearly, he's competitive. He wouldn't have been successful doing what he was doing if he was not, or successful as a player if he was not. So many leaders, I think, or many leaders have a challenge in trying to subordinate their own ego and let others kind of shine. Mark has been skilled at doing that. You know, is part of the reason that he's been able to work with so many different administrations and to build such a phenomenal staff. And that not only has helped the Midwest at a sectional level, but certainly at a national level as well.
Mark, it's a pleasure for me to be asked to do this. I was appointed as an endorser, coming in with no junior background, and thank goodness Mark was there. Mark's ability to work with people, both volunteers and staff, on many levels, from brand new people coming in to those who've been there for 10, 20 years. He makes it work, and he makes it fun. He has been so respected at the national level as one of the top 3 premier CEOs in the country. And an accomplishment, wonderful recognition of that is Midwest being named the USTA Section of the Year. Congratulations, Mark, on being inducted into the Midwest Hall of Fame. It's been a pleasure working with you, and it's a very well-deserved honor.
In his early years, Mark started out as the Director of Player Development. He was one of the first in the country to hold that position and did a tremendous job in building the number of high-performance players, coaches. The big priority was looking at plan for growth and looking at how we're going to grow the number of new participants to the game. We had a program called Play Tennis America, and we were looking at getting new adults into the game, and we were a leader in the country. He was instrumental in building our building that we call the home of Midwest Tennis and our Hall of Fame. Just some fun things that you might not know about Mark. Mark, whenever I first started, his nickname was Food Court. The reason for that being that every day he used to eat lunch at the Castleton Mall Food Court.
Let's see, the kangaroo suit. Anybody that's seen him move around in that would not doubt his agility or commitment to the prank. So I think that was a high moment for him. I think one of Mark's strongest qualities was always that he was very supportive of the staff. He was very conscious of people's families and commitments and their efforts. Right until the end, he was making big contributions. Getting the money from National, that took a lot of work, a lot of people, and a lot of guts.
Please welcome Mark Saunders.
It is my honor as well, and the absolute privilege to induct you, Mark, into our Midwest Tennis Hall of Fame. You are joining other major contributors, remarkable contributors to the sport of tennis. Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you. You're too kind. It's good to be home. When I was asked what music I wanted to have played, it was a Kenny Loggins song, Please Celebrate Me Home, and it's one of my favorite songs. But I'm really glad that Ticketmaster didn't blow the pre-sale, and you were all able to get tickets tonight to this event. I know Beyonce and Swiftie wanted to be here, but they couldn't get tickets. Wow, what an honor. I want to thank the the Hollywood Foreign Press, the Academy, my manager, my publicist, and my family who are here tonight. Sorry, wrong speech, that's for next month. So all kidding aside, I do want to thank the Janelle and the Hall of Fame Committee for this prestigious honor and being the 98th inductee into the Hall of Fame. And you'll never know how much this evening means to me. So thank you for this recognition. I've never been really one to like to be recognized or to be honored. I'd rather be somebody who was kind of in the background. So that's why I grew my hair out, so that nobody would recognize me. So really, despite all of my achievements, I've tried to remain humble throughout my life, and I do. And I really believe, truly, that it's not what others recognize you for, but it's the things that you really did, and I hope I made a difference. So besides being the chair of the Hall of Fame Committee, you know that Janelle is a past president. She's a retired school teacher, and she's one of the kindest people I've ever known. And Janelle was my 9th boss out of 16. Yeah, president every 2 years, and that's how we roll in the USTA. During my performance reviews, Janelle was pretty tough. She gave me straight Fs. She was careful the words she chose, and she used words like fabulous, fantastic, formidable, and fashionable. However, she never used the other F word. You're fired. Either adjective would really work in that situation. Janelle, I do have to ask you one question. Why in the world would your committee induct a sap like me into the Hall of Fame? It seems to me your committee could use a hall monitor. Well, anyhow, tennis, as you know, is a great sport. It unifies us. If it wasn't for tennis, you know we wouldn't be here tonight. If it wasn't for tennis, I wouldn't be here tonight. Most likely I'd be serving time instead of double faults. Or as Don says, dropping forehands into the net. Thanks, Don. Jerk. So, it was a hot, sultry summer day. It was July 12th, 1956 to be exact. A child was born to a talkative Italian mother and a quiet Irish man until he had a few. So they named this boy, the youngest of 8, Christopher. Then they named him Eugene, and then finally changed it to Mark. So apparently my family has a real hard time with naming their newborns, and this is a true story. On my mother's birth certificate, it said parents will decide at a later date. So after several years, they named her Rose, and she bloomed to a beautiful, loving mother that she was amazing. But truthfully, I wish my parents would have named me Chance. Chance Saunders. Doesn't that ring well? Chance is one of my most favorite words because it means you have the opportunity to do something. My parents gave me a chance, and they gave me life. Now, throughout my entire life, so many people have taken a chance on me. One in particular is my lovely wife, Libby, who took a chance on me several years ago. Thank you. Come to find out, one of her favorite words is regret. Lib, I thank you for taking the chance on me. Being married to you has been the most rewarding volunteer experience I've ever had. So 32 years ago, as was pointed out, Kay Schubert hired me. She gave me a job. She was some of you know her. She was the first executive director of the association and a really smart lady. However, I wasn't really forthcoming with Kay in my interview. Tonight I have to make a confession. George Santos helped me with my resume. Now I know he went a little too far when he said that he wrote that I had won Wimbledon, the French, the Australian Open, and the U.S. Open on multiple occasions. George was a crafty fellow. So I, too, had to take chances in my life, and I took a chance on hiring the three amigos, Greg Boyd, Chad Doctor, and Dorian Dyson. They're all gambling men, and you know some bets turn out better than the others. But guys, thank you for your friendship, for all the jobs you do for us, and for making me look better. And with your physiques, that wasn't really hard to do. I do really want to thank the sponsors of tonight's event. Stifel Pathway Advisory Group, Mike, Scott, and Patty, thank you for coming tonight. Also, I want to thank Woodley, Farah, and Mannion, Portfolio Management. Mike and Jared are here tonight, and thank you. And I want to thank both sponsors for all they did for our foundation. I'd also like, Jonelle did, I'd like to honor Barbara Wynn, who just got another award. She was named, she got her Lifetime Achievement Award as from the Indiana State High School Association. She has more awards than Katharine Hepburn and Meryl Streep combined. I'd also like to recognize Ron Brooks from the class of 1887. Sorry, Ron. You've been a good friend, and I appreciate all that you and Barbara have done to lead the way, and I'm privileged to follow in your footsteps to be inducted into the hall. So, and then the past presidents. My God. These guys over at this table, they want a recount. Yeah. Stop the steal, right? So anyhow, you know, I can't get enough of them. You've got Joy here, you got Janelle, you've got Jay, you got Doug, Paul, Don. You guys are great. But I have to say the women were better to work for. And I can't believe you guys really keep coming to these meetings. What the hell's wrong with you? I'd like to recognize the other award winners tonight. Joy, congratulations on your Mel Durbin Award, well deserved. Ruth, I had the chance to know Stan Moless. He was a great guy, one of the most brilliant men I've ever met, and you exemplify many of the traits that he had, so congratulations on your award also. And then Michelle, Brianna, I'd like to congratulate you on your Family of the Year award. I know Kevin would have been honored to be here tonight, and I know how proud he was of you. I've had the chance, there's that word again, to know and spend time with Kevin. He was brilliant, he was inspiring, he had his insight into junior competition, point tables and rankings was just amazing. Not only that, he was a great guy, and I miss him already. Sinai, what a great job on your essay. I had the privilege to know, and the chance to know, Mayor Dinkins, and he would have been thrilled to read your essay, and I hope you'll continue to, besides all the other things you want to do, to pursue a writing career as well. Well done. So over the years, I have had to do a lot of writing. I've had to write over 100 speeches and give a lot of presentations. So I thought I'd do something different tonight and have my children help me with my remarks. Colin and Hannah are here to with me tonight, and I appreciate you all coming. However, truthfully, they weren't much help. That's true. They said, "Dad, just be honest and tell them how you feel." I said, "No, not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent, not at this juncture. Not gonna do it." So let me tell you how I really feel. There's no place I'd rather be tonight than in bed watching a Hallmark movie. But my family has been really supportive over the years and encouraged me to try new things. And I retired back in December, and for Christmas, my children gave me some of the best Christmas gifts I ever got. job applications. Now, oddly enough, I found out that I wouldn't qualify or didn't have the skill set for all of those jobs applications they gave me, but one company stood out, and that was Costco. Here are some of the opportunities would have had at Costco. A front-end loader. It's somebody who would load the groceries for those coming through the line. Really, that's not for me. Rear-end loader. That sounds even worse. So, but here's what I found. A food court assistant. Yes, helping people with their meals, making sure that they are all satisfied with their pizza and their hot dogs. So I think my future looks bright. Tonight's a culmination of many things and a lot of things that people did to make this event happen. Colin, Janelle, Joe, there's so many. Chris, Molly, Tara, Matt, Kylie, Liz, the Hall of Fame Committee and Awards Committee, and so many others. So I want to thank you for making this evening so great. I know how much it takes to put on such an event, so thank you very much. So as for the rest of the staff, you've heard it before from me, you're the best in the USTA. I want to thank you for all you do. Keep up the great work. The three stooges, Colin, Chad, and Dorian, they need all the help you can get. So, well, before the evening ends and the music starts playing, I have to write a few thank you notes. So, Matt, I need your help. Not you, Matt. Matt? Thank you, Don Harris and Denny Schachter, for 32 years of really stupid jokes. No, I don't want to rate those. Did you steal my jokes? Where'd they all go? Here they are. Wow, what a class act. Thank you, Hall of Fame Committee, for not doing a background check on me and somehow allowing me into the hall. Thank you, Midwest, for all the remarkable and memorable moments that I don't remember. Thank you to all of the board of directors I had the honor of serving coffee, tea, or milk, and for the 256 board meetings that I had to attend. We should have practiced, Matt. Excuse me. Thank you, Libby, for those 40 years of wonder and delight, especially all those afternoons. Sorry, that's her calling. That's her ringtone that I use for her. So, hi. Uh-huh. Sure. I'm sorry. All right, I'll be down in a few minutes. I love you too. Bye. You know, this is a hard act to follow, you know, it's just, Jesus. All right, I do have one last thank you note. Thank you, everyone, for not leaving. I sincerely love the fact that you stayed, and I can't tell you how much tonight is so meaningful to me, and it's the pinnacle of my career. So, well, I have to go to bed. Good night, and keep taking chances.
You know, I was sitting at the table over here, and they had all kinds of great things that they wanted me to say about Mark, and I said, no, we are going to raise this to a higher level. Little did I know Mark himself was going to take this thing down. I have a few closing remarks before I turn this back over to Colin. And some of this may be a little bit of a repetition of what Mark has already said, but I do need to give some thank yous. I don't have thank you notes, and Matt, don't play any music. To the Hall of Fame Administrative Committee, and for those of you that don't know, it is the president, the executive first vice president, the immediate past president, I think, and then two additional members who, myself and Doug Winger, who is the vice chair. And those five people read through all of the nominations that have come in for people who are deserving of consideration, and they make the decision on who will appear on a ballot. And then the Hall of Fame committee is made up of the board of directors and all of the past presidents. And the ballot is sent out to those people, and they then read through the resumes of those candidates that are nominees, and they vote, and then if they receive percentage, highest percent, if they receive the required percentage of votes, then they are selected for induction into our Hall of Fame. So there's a lot of work that goes into that from these volunteers, and so I want to thank the administrative committee and all of the members of the Hall of Fame committee. I also want to thank Chris Campbell, who is our staff liaison, who has done a lot of work for us. Thank you very much, Chris. And along with Chris, there are countless Midwest staff members who, just like Matt, who have done all kinds of things to help make this evening a success, and I thank them all for the work that they have put in. I want to thank our table sponsors, and Mark already alluded to those, and all of you who have placed messages in the program book. Thank you very much. Those are meaningful to the award recipients and to our Hall of Fame inductees. I also need to thank and recognize my predecessor, Leslie Bernardo Jr. Last year, unfortunately, he had COVID and wasn't able to be here, and he is unable to be here tonight. But I do want to thank him for his support, his guidance, and he has been an invaluable help for the success of this evening's program. So if you do see Les out, or if you are email or phone contact friend with him, please let him know that you appreciate the work that he's put in as the previous Hall of Fame chair. I'd like to remind you all that anybody can present a name for consideration for our Hall of Fame. You need to give us the name and at least a brief explanation of why you feel that this individual is worthy. The requirements are that the person needs to have lived within the Midwest section for at least 10 years, and they have to have made significant or exceptional contributions to tennis in some capacity. We've seen coaches, we've seen people who have led the association, and we've got all kinds of other people who have made contributions in some way, not just as a tennis player, but in other capacities. So if you know of somebody, or you have somebody in mind and you want to present their name to us, You can contact me or you can talk to Chris. Chris is in the Midwest office and she'd be happy to talk to you about how you might submit a name. Our Midwest Tennis Hall of Fame is located in the lobby of actually it's the Foundation building where our Midwest office is located, and it's on East 96th Street here in Indianapolis. If you have time during the work week, please stop in, check out the displays there, and spend some time reading the plaques. You will be very impressed with the things that our Hall of Fame members have accomplished, and a whole myriad. And I hope you took a chance to look at some of the pictures and the names of the previous inductees. Some are more famous and, internationally known. Everybody knows Billie Jean King, but there are a lot of other people who have made remarkable contributions to tennis. So, with that, please give another round of applause to our two inductees tonight, Jimmy Everett and Mark Saunders. Thank you very much. Colin.
All right, everybody give a round of applause for Janelle. So I just want to do one other congratulations to all the award winners tonight, inclusive of the Hall of Fame and Sinai as well. Thank you again. One more round of applause. Thank you. So the silent auction is still open. There is a Sam Glenn painting out there. We will be closing it in 15 minutes. So what time is it right now? I can't hear you. 9:49. All right, we'll do 10:05. 10:05. All right. I know the bidding is getting high, but remember what this is for, right? You get to win a nice painting, but then you get to benefit all the great things that the foundation is doing. So if you need help in persuasion, obviously Joy is your person. So persuade you to put in a higher bid. I just want to say thank you to everyone for this meeting, not just tonight, but the entire meeting. This is the end of our weekend as a Midwest tennis family. It's been a really incredible weekend for myself, and I just want to say thank you to those that have supported me through this weekend. But I also want to say thank you to everyone here. You guys are all making a major, major difference in not just tennis, but the lives of so many people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I do want to just say one last thing, which is be safe when you're going home. This is the end of our ceremonies for the night. Is the bar still open? Dorian gave me the thumbs up as if, come on, you know it's still open. So the bar is still open, but please be safe going home tonight or tomorrow, whenever you do, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.